Juliet, how did you find carnivore?
Hi, Dave. Um, I am a big fan, first of all, so I appreciate you having me on. I found carnivore in it may be a little bit different way. I did not for weight loss. As maybe you could tell, I've sort of always been tall and a skinny kid, a late bloomer. But once I hit my, I would say, 40s, uh, I began to have issues, and it really started when I began bodybuilding. As crazy as that sounds, as lean as I am, I went to Gold's Gym at my 40th birthday and hired a trainer, and I never worked out a day in my life, and I just fell in love with it. Now, I never competed or meant to compete or wanted to compete, but I am an all or nothing person, sometimes unfortunately, and I went headfirst into training. Back then, now I am 61, so we're talking 21 years ago. There weren't any food apps or, YouTube videos. Sorry, that I was watching what to eat or what to do, and I had no knowledge of food or nutrition. I just ate the standard American diet. And what my coaches used to do was write on a piece of paper what I should eat. And I remember going home thinking, this is awful. And it was basically turkey breast. And think of that low fat, high protein, moderate carbohydrate diet. But I followed it because I am a rule follower and I wanted to succeed. After a while, I really started gaining lots of muscle. And part of how I did it was being a hard gainer and always being lean. I'm 5'9", well, was 5'10". My trainer said, well, now we're in the phase that I need you to, like, do you like Burger King? And I said, yeah, I like Burger King. I don't eat it very often. And he said, over the next 2 weeks, I need you to eat like Whoppers and French fries and gain weight. Of course, I said, okay. So kind of fast forward, I was with coaches and such for a year or so until they fired me. They said, you're good. You know enough now. You're the little gym star, one little contest before and after, and built that muscle and reduced body fat. And it's no fault of theirs, but I've developed very disordered eating habits. And I think that's sort of when it started. Maybe it was underlying, but when I left the gym, I had to my family moved to Missouri, and I needed to stay home with my girls, my two daughters, and I really didn't have time for the gym. Prior to moving, I would go to the gym 2 hours a day, an hour in the morning, an hour at lunch, and I could not miss a day. I would get anxiety. I mean, even Christmas Day, that was part of the addiction. It was, if I don't work out on Christmas Day, I mean, I don't know what today. I don't remember what I thought would happen. I would lose muscle. I have no idea. But as small as I am, I just kept thinking I need to be bigger. I need to be bigger, and that's a lot opposite of a lot of females. So I know that's a little unusual. But the gym, thank goodness, the gym sort of fell by the wayside when life came and we had to move. And it was a serious situation in our family. So, but I found my eating habits were the same. And I would find myself wanting to like binge eat on junk food and then get back to the lean, the leaning out part that I was involved in of, you know, lean meat and medium carbs, I would say 80 grams back then, and very high protein. But I would do that for a while, start to feel super hungry, and then get back in the cycle of, oh, skip it. I'm going to eat Whoppers and French fries. And from the outside, and maybe this is a negative, from the outside, I didn't get very heavy. I was probably 20 pounds higher on my frame of not muscle at that time. So I'm about 46 at this point. Um, So it didn't show in obesity, but as I got into my late 40s, I started feeling really bad. I was very, very depressed. Um, and I did go to counseling and get on medication. At one time, I was misdiagnosed. I live in a small town. I went to whoever was around. I was misdiagnosed with bipolar. So I took the bipolar medications, which made my mind so much worse. I was on 3 or 4 medications for that until I went to see a specialist outside of here, I believe St. Louis. I live in a small town, who said, "You are nowhere near bipolar, but you do have depression, anxiety disorder." I wasn't thrilled. Call it what you want. I still had, the mental issues. About the same time, again, I'm in my late 40s. Uh, I kind of thought I was the picture of health only because I didn't gain a lot of weight like my friends. Um, I did, I kind of always compared, and I thought, well, I'm kind of healthy. I kind of look better than them. I'm not heavy. Dumb. It's embarrassing to say it, but that's how I thought. But I started to getting a little bit heavier. And then the first thing that happened was I was diagnosed with high blood pressure and put on medication. And that was, and I'm going to be frank, people may not like me for it, but it was a blow. It was a blow to my ego. Like, how do I have high blood pressure? I work out, I eat right, 2 weeks out of the month, and the other two, I'm head first in Doritos or some other crappy food. But yeah, it was high, and we kept testing it, and it became very high, and I was on high dose of high blood pressure medication. At very shortly thereafter, and things happened, boom, 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 boom. I was put on thyroid medication. My doctor said I had signs of, uh, I think, overactive. I'm not. That's not the medical term. Thyroid, and I was put on medication for that, which I always question, but I never questioned the doctor. If he said go on medication, I did. And the there's a list, but the third thing and the worst for me was type 2 diabetes. I be, and in my mind, I manifested it, for those that believe in thoughts become things. But my family, at the age of 60, my dad, my older brother, etc., they developed type 2 diabetes. So that that was just a gut punch. And I remember telling the doctor, okay, what can I do about it? I was not insulin. I was metformin. So I was on medication. And I said, "What, how do I fix this?" I was back to working out, but never at the extent, I never got that mindset of I need to be bigger, maybe 3 times a week, normal workout. So I said, I work out. I mean, yes, I eat junk, but I also try to eat fruits and vegetables. Um, and he just looked at me and he said, "Oh, it's just genetic. There's nothing you can do." And I believed him. I didn't question that. I was just like, okay. And then went home and was now a diabetic. Um, and again, so we're having the depression, the high blood pressure, the diabetes. I had IBS for probably since my 30s, but it was starting to get worse. Uh, IBD, IBS. In my family, we have colitis and things like that, but I was never formally diagnosed as having gluten issues. And now I wonder if those tests were correct, but scoped several times. They went, they did a scan in my stomach and found out I had a pretty bad hernia from the weight training. So it was probably there for a few years, had that fixed. But it just seemed things were piling up.
It's just
Um,
everything's hitting you at once, you
at
know?
once, as I'm in my 50s now. And I think the depression was one of the worst, and the IBS. And the IBS, my husband, it became the norm, where it wasn't uncommon. We were to go to a friend's house on a Friday for dinner locally or something. And I 8 out of 10 times I would have to cancel the last minute because the pain was so bad. And it just, I called it an episode. I'm having an episode, and my family knew what that meant. That meant I have to be by that bathroom because either I would get really bad pain for hours and then followed by diarrhea. And it was just, you know, that was it. And I could not go out. I would have gone out if not for the pain. I could deal with finding, I knew where every bathroom was in every mall and every store. Automatically, I knew exactly where, but the pain kept getting worse and worse. Um, so then I had this brilliant idea that the answer to all my health problems were to pay um, a well-known in the States, they used to advertise a program that it was just under $7,000 a year, and they give you a nutritionist and they give you workout plans. And I thought that's what I need. I need structure. The nutrition portion, again, this is where I could feel my disordered patterns kicking in. And that was just a few years ago. So I was almost 60. They had you um, list all your food into an app that they hooked into. So my coach, my trainer, they had access to all my stuff. And I didn't know how to weigh and measure. And I learned what grams were because that's the unit we used. And the diets they prescribed were low fat, very low fat, high protein, lots of carbohydrates, at 200 or so. Um, and it was like and high protein. And it was kind of like the diet for everyone, regardless of your age or underlying conditions, things like that. So as I followed this diet, and sometimes, and I'm going to give it from my perspective, I felt like I did something wrong when I was questioned. Your fat was 80 grams that day. What was that about, Juliet? And I would feel like I did something wrong, like, oh, I'm just screwing this up. Um, that's too much fat. Okay. And the meal prep, let me tell you, my husband laughs today. I would spend Saturday cooking that dry chicken and broccoli and brown rice with no white rice in this diet plan, and do all these containers in the refrigerator. Like my husband said, he couldn't fit his beer, because I had all these containers. And by day 3, so by Wednesday, I would be throwing the food out because it was so disgusting to me, number one. And number two, that IBS was debilitating to the point where I sometimes would just go to bed right after work, when we're talking 4:30, and not get up and just have extremely bad pain. I was on medication for it. I would call my doctor. He's like, "You're on the biggest dose. It's just, we can't, there's nothing we can do." And, but again, I was just feeling terrible. Diabetic, high blood pressure, IBS, thyroid, depression medication, and feeling horrible. I can't even describe. So one day, and I'm getting into how I found carnivore. Uh, I need to hesitate 1 second. I also, during this time, discovered red wine. And slowly but surely, it went from it's healthy for me, have a glass an evening, to a bottle an evening. Uh, from, I would guess, the age 52 to 59. And I knew I was alcoholic, and I used to tell my husband, I guess when I have time, I'll have to go to AA, because obviously I can't go a night without drinking. But I never did anything. I just drank. So I drank a lot of calories and didn't stick that in the app for the trainer to see. So anyway, the trainer said to me, the nutrition coach, I believe, I think maybe you should try an elimination diet, Juliet, because obviously you're losing weight because you can't eat, or if you're eating, you have diarrhea all the time. This is not a good situation. And she said to me, maybe start with peanut butter. You eat a lot of peanut butter. Let's get that out of your diet for 2 weeks, and then we'll take another thing out. Well, those that know me know I'm very impatient. And my food variety was 25 things. And I thought, wait, I'm going to eliminate one every 2 weeks? No, that would take forever. I don't have the patience to do that. So I went ahead and I got on YouTube like other people and I looked up a elimination diet. I don't recall if I heard of carnivore diet, and I probably did, but paid no attention to it. I tried keto. I think everyone did back in the day, and that was fine. But I did the keto snacks, the Quest bars. I wasn't keto, so I don't even like to say I was. But I'm looking up an elimination diet, and of course, Dr. Baker keeps popping up, and I keep thinking that man's weird. No. And then another, and this is over a week because I thought I have to figure out how to do this quicker. And I have to say, it was Dr. Baker on over and over. Every time I try to find something, he would pop up again. I'm like, really, no, no, no. And then Ken Berry would pop up, and then this and that. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try it because that's the fastest way to do the elimination diet, right? It's the quickest way. I could just eat meat. I'll eat meat and water, and I could do that. And then after 30 days, I'll stop and I'll add back in my peanut butter and my veggies and my fruit. So I was the worst carnivore starter in the world because when I started, I was used to counting the calories, putting it in an app, weighing and measuring. And I didn't listen to the community that would say, Juliet, you have to have more fat than that. You have to have more fat than that. And I couldn't. Was afraid of fat, and it not in the weight gain aspect, but I don't know what I thought. I was born in the 60s and we were told fat is bad, fat is bad, fat is bad, fat is bad. And in my head, I'm like, fat is bad. My trainer's fat is bad, on the recent program. So I really struggled with that for 3 weeks, stayed in the community. I can't stress the importance. I jumped into the community, got to know, the big people like you, the famous one, and watched the interviews and Dr. Barry and Dr. Baker, and I'm Dr. Chafee and Bella, and eating her butter. And I just immersed myself. And after three weeks, it just hit me. I'm like, I'm going to do this and do it right and throw it all out. I'm not going to weigh. I'm not going to measure. I'm not. I'm not going to care about grams. I'm going to eat my fatty meat, which I love, and I'm just going to douse it in animal fat, tallow, or butter. And the moment I started doing that, the rest is history. I never looked back. I consider myself a very high fat carnivore and moderate protein. Um, and that was back in January. So I'm newer, January 2025. So I'm just going on my 11th month. But what I must say is I truly did not believe in the benefits of carnivore. That was for everybody else. I believed people that they reversed type 2 diabetes and they all of a sudden mental clarity. I really did believe them because there were so many viewers posting this and normal people, but not for me. Until really quickly, maybe 30 days, maybe 5 weeks later, I was in a store doing my errands, and I walked in a very small store, thank goodness, and I was the only one there at the counter, and I went down. I didn't realize my blood pressure, I was still on medication. I didn't know not to take it. My blood pressure got so low, it caused me to just pass out. And it was a very kind lady behind the counter that helped me. And I said, "Oh, I think this is my blood pressure." I ate, I ate I'm not a faster. I still eat 3 meals a day to this day. But, after a while, I had my head between my legs. I felt better, drove home, called my doctor, took my blood pressure, and it was very low. He said, "Stop taking the medication immediately." My happiest moment. And from 5 weeks out, so we're talking February, I have not been on high blood pressure medication. And some days, at least at first, the next few months, it ran rather low to the point I'd stand up quick and I'd feel like that a little bit, just a little dizzy. But now it's runs low, but low normal. Got completely off that. my IBD, my IBS, literally, and I'm going to go with that 5 weeks because it was at week 3 I started adding the fat. That was the missing component while I was miserable for 3 weeks doing carnivore wrong. Um, the symptoms went away, like completely away. I was even able to, most people, I didn't get the diarrhea people get. Sometimes when you change your diet, regardless of what the diet is, a lot of people increasing their fat, gallbladder issues report diarrhea. Not me, and I'd even pour that rendered fat on there, which some say causes diarrhea. I didn't get any diarrhea. I just got normal. So I stopped taking the medication on my own. I didn't even contact my doctor. At that point, he was of no help with any of this. So that was the next thing I got off. And then I started learning about blood glucose, A1C. I learned through you guys, through the doctors, in online on YouTube. And I got a glucose monitor and a continuous one. And the last at my doctor, I think in January, my A1C was like 6.8 and my fasting glucose 140. I then went and tested it, and it was under 100 in the morning, which I never saw. I haven't seen that in 100 years. I mean, it seemed forever. Um, and I waited a few months out. And then I went and had everything rechecked. And my last check, which is 2 months ago, my A1C is 5.6. I expected to go lower, but it's 5.6 and I'm off all medication. I don't check my glucose as often because I eat beef, butter, bacon, eggs, and heavy cream in my coffee. And I don't change. I don't add anything. I don't have the desire to cheat. All cravings are absolutely gone. Thank heaven. I mean, they just are. But the last I checked, I think about 3 hours after a meal, my glucose was around 80, 82, and ketone range was about, I think, 2.5 or 3. So I don't really measure things anymore. I'll just go for my normal tests when it's time. Um, I did find out I'm a lean mass hyper responder, so I've dug down that rabbit hole. And a doctor online suggested, I'm in a class of his. He goes, if you don't want your doctor to bug you before your next cholesterol test, he goes, just have a few carbs, which I'm like, sure, if that helps, because he was bugging me to get on statins. And my triglycerides were only 50. And I just said no, but I kind of dread going back. So I'm not going on statins at all. So my
And just
CAC,
sorry to interrupt. Your HDL is like about the same level as triglycerides,
it
or a
was
bit higher?
three. It was, it's always been like a 200, but it was closer to 3. So like 298.
Oh, sorry, your HDL.
Oh, my HDL, it went up. It was, I think 102, something like
Oh,
that.
wow.
Uh, I
Oh, that's
know. And then
awesome.
the tries went way down. So I don't, why I would need statins. I just said no and had left. Um, so the last I tackled was with the help of a psychiatrist doctor, not my regular doctor. I just felt so good. Uh, I didn't, I wasn't moody. I wasn't Jekyll and Hyde. I wasn't angry like I was before. I'd go from being fine to being so angry and moody, but I'm like, I want to get off antidepressants. And that really is kind of recent because it takes a long time. I got off high blood pressure pills on my own, or IBD. That's really different than messing with the brain and antidepressants. And it's a very slow, supervised wean that sometimes I was tempted to cut corners, because when you're on these things and you're like, I feel better after 2 months, I understand the inclination is to go, I don't need to, I could just stop now. And I didn't, of course, but I think I've only been off them a full 2 months, but it was a slow wean for 9, 10 months, and
W-
feel great.
Wow.
Uh,
So, yeah, like now that you're completely off them, you're feeling better than when you were on them.
100%. When I was on them, I felt like The only emotion I felt was anger that I could recall. Like even in sad events, I couldn't cry. Like I would know in my brain, this is really sad. Or I'm really frustrated if I just want to let out and have a good cry and then get back at it, whatever it was. And I couldn't. And that became really obvious to me and really bugged me. Like I'm like, the meds are causing this. They are blocking that part of my brain. That it just lets the anger and impatience out, but never the calmness or even the tears. But that it's turned around. I'm not like happy 24/7, but I'm calm. I'm much calmer, less stressed. What used
But
to
that's normal, right? Not to be happy all the time. I mean, that's just normal human
yes,
experience, right?
yeah. But you don't know that when you're in that 20 years of just your brain. And I think that's more than anything what motivates me to stay very high fat because of the brain and everything I've read about the healing of conditions of the brain, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, anything I've read, it's the fat. So that's why I still eat very high fat. If you ask me what that is, I don't know, but I would say 240 grams, 250 for me, something like that. And the only reason I know is because I am a certified health coach under Dr. Kiltz and taking a second under Dr. Berry. But our homework was to track our meals. And we had to do it, even if it caused bad memories, because we may have clients that do that. And so we had to understand. So that's how I knew my fat intake. That's the only reason I know it was 240, 250, something like that, when I had to do the 1 week of tracking.
Oh,
And
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and then today, what is shocking to me, a couple things every day at 2 or 3 o'clock, my whole life, like even in my 20s, even in high school, I would get tired around 2, 3 in the afternoon. And so did everyone else. And I would have candy. And when I worked in offices for years, we all hit the candy machine at 2 or 3 o'clock because of that tiredness. And that has completely gone away. And that's this one of the other strange things is I don't get that tiredness that I used to come home from work and want to take a nap because from 3 o'clock on at work, I barely stayed awake. I don't have that anymore. And the last thing is, I never dreamed in a million years, and I still think it's funny that I would have a small YouTube channel and coaching, certified health coach. Like, never dreamed I would be here with you, that I would be on camera, that I would share my story, that at first I was so embarrassed to share and, so nervous to record a video. And it got to the point where I don't care if I don't make a dime. I don't make a dime on YouTube. It's fine. That's not what it's about. But I thought if one person sees a video, just one person like me, when they're like, something's wrong with me, I can't fix, I don't know. I, I feel like I did my job and that's it. And I love that. And the same with coaching. If I could help one person or be I tell myself I want to be the coach that I didn't have when I had a coach in the more of the bodybuilding, world, be that person. And, that's sort of my internal statement. You can't really go on a statement like that and attract clients, but in my mind is, and do I want to do things different with people I coach and come from a different, not necessarily they all have to be carnivore because that's, not what I'm there for, but that they're not broken and it's not their fault that we have been eating and told to eat our Cheerios and low fat and the Snackwell cookies that came out in the States. I don't know, 20 years ago, they were fat free. And I tell you what, I used to eat a whole pack of them and add it to my calorie count and go, well, if I eat a whole box of Snackwells and then chicken breast for dinner, I'm good for the calories. I'd rather have the good food in the Snackwell. I was, as I've come out with this, I find I'm not alone. Like a lot of people have done this and still do.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't actually know snack wells, but I've heard so many people talk about it. It feels very familiar to me, because everyone was in the same boat.
Because they advertise to us in America right in the middle of fat-free craze. So I think in the 90s maybe that look at you could eat this whole look. There's not a gram of fat, not a single one, and that was it. The advertising and our brainwashed minds. Yeah, we when I bring up snack wells, a lot of people, especially people that were around in the 90s and doing these crazy diets, they know what I'm talking about because we all binged on those because they had no fat. So you could eat cookies with no fat, and I never read a label, so I assume they had so much sugar that they tasted great for a healthy cookie, and it was just a miracle, not a miracle pill, a miracle cookie. So,
Yeah, I'm reminded of when you mentioned the '90s and the fat-free thing. I'm reminded of this Seinfeld episode where they find this. I think it's a donut shop or it's an ice cream shop that's just open near them, and they go into this ice cream shop and they can't believe this ice cream is fat free. It's amazing. And so Jerry and George and everyone, they're just ordering more and more ice cream, and they're just like, they can't believe, how can this taste so good if it's fat free? And then they all start putting on weight and they don't understand what's going on. And it's like, well, there's a reason it tastes so good.
that represents the 90s perfectly right there. It's fat free because that we were told you get fat from fat, and there you go. That's the reason. I think I'm trying to think of it's not sorbet, but the Italian ice cream that came out that um, not sorbet, something similar. Oh, I've lost it. It was basically almost like an Italian ice cream, but it was a little bit more of a sorbet, and that was fat free. And yeah, there I was every night, right down to the store, buying oh, I could have double because it's only 150 calories for a single in a cup. I could have two, that's 300 calories. I just skipped something of nutrition. That's how it always worked. Well, I could just skip that meat or eat half of it and get the calories here. So, the nutrition, very broken when I went to carnivore.
Yeah,
Just can't even imagine what it did to my body inside. Well, I can because I was on medication for everything. Now I'm
yeah.
just
I think what you just said there also exemplifies why the idea of, kind of calories in, calories out is so broken for people, because people are just going, well, calories in, calories out, it's just mathematics, right? So I don't eat I won't eat half the steak, and that means I've got more calories to use for my dessert or something. And it's like
absolutely.
the body doesn't work that way. The body's not going, "Oh, yeah, okay, I understand the math here, so we're not gonna put on weight, and we're still gonna extract the same amount of nutrition from the food that's been put in."
Yeah, and you're so right. And I've learned that through community and carnivore. And so I remember, again, I just do strange things. I wanted to do a test, and I'm the perfect person because I didn't fear the weight gain portion of it. And I think it was about for a week. Uh, and I tracked on paper, not, exactly, but I would eat 45 to 5,000 calories a day on purpose. I was so full. I really hide that and everything. And I didn't weigh myself for a week. And I'm like, I just want to see, and I figured I gained weight. I felt really full all the time. I lost 2 pounds, 2 or 3 pounds. And I was just like, that, it's almost like I had to do it for myself to let go of that fat fear. And so it was around the same time, I bet, but it, that N equals one, I'm like, I will never be afraid to throw on, you know, the fat again. I proved it to myself and I was 60 at that time, 61 now, but I was just like, nope, they're right. Everything I hear, the calorie nonsense, uh, you know, uh, they're right, and it works for me. So that's that's all I know. And I know recently here people are adding carbs and things like that. And oh, there's a big like uproar in it. And, I look at it like that's not for me. So I'm not influenced maybe by influencers. I know what works for me. And if it ever doesn't, maybe I'll be keto, but carnivore works. And the motivation is if I think, oh, well, maybe one day, my mom asked me over the summer, she said, do you think you'll ever add carbs again? And my mom's 90 something, very healthy actually. And she does eat a lot of meat and grew up on pork fat and bacon and eggs in the old country. And I never had thought about it. And I said, Mom, I don't think so, because if I do, I will end up back on medication. I will have an Oreo one day thinking, okay, one's not going to hurt. And I'll end up eating I have to abstain. I'll end up eating the whole thing of Oreos. I believe I would. And I never had thought about it. And I was 7 months carnivore. Then I said, no, no, I don't think so, Mom. And she was supportive, which was amazing. Amazing. My family, who is not carnivore, has supported me. Now, I dragged my husband into it because we do a non-food live on Sundays. I just call it Doug and Juliet Live because we are a couple that laughs at everything. But over time, with the carnivore audience we have, we are slowly moving into he's more keto than anything. So kind of the behind the scenes, I'm like, let's get him to go carnivore because he's doing really well,
And
much improved.
yeah, how's he feeling? Like, is he losing weight, just sleeping better, things like that?
He's always slept great, but he's 64 and he goes to the gym 3 days a week in boot camp. He gets about 5:30, goes to boot camp. Um, he doesn't need to lose a lot weight necessarily, but you could just see he's just getting, and he's not after muscles at his age, but he's getting very broad. We sit next to each other at the live. We sit very close on and I just look like this little midget. We're the same height, but he's so much broader. He doesn't snack in between meals anymore. His problem, and we discuss it live, so I'm not tattling, he does like the occasional drink on weekends. So if it's a Saturday night and he has a drink, he was teasing. He said he's like a raccoon that goes in the kitchen looking for something. But the ironic part is there's no snacks for him in the kitchen. We don't have snacks in our house. It's us. He, we got rid of processed foods, and he usually doesn't eat processed food, but I can tell you, if they were there, once he has a little alcohol, he wants the crackers and stuff. But we left because not in our house. They're just not there. So
Yeah, so, you're having 3 meals a day. Are they just meals whenever you feel hungry, or is that still pretty much like you'll have a breakfast an hour or so after waking up, or
yeah, I think it's more of, I tried fasting. I went through the little courses they have, and I just don't like it. I agree with the benefits, and I've studied fasting, and my friends fast and dry fast, and I'm so impressed. But I have to say, I would say my last meal, like I ate my last meal already on Central Time, so my last meal was about 3 o'clock. That's not necessarily on purpose. That just tends to be my habit. So at 3 o'clock is my last meal, and then I'm not hungry until I wake up. I do have coffee and heavy cream in the morning, and then I maybe get hungry. I get up at 5, and by 8 I make bacon and eggs. So I say 3 meals a day, but it's more like I have bacon and eggs and butter in the morning, and then at around 3 o'clock, I get hungry. It could be 2, it could be 4. That's my second meal. Um, I count a snack as a meal. So at noontime, if I feel hungry, maybe I'll have some butter, or I'm trying to think of maybe pork rinds a little bit just to time me over. But I say I eat 3 times a day because I do have that snack. So it's not 3 big meals. And I think part of me does it because I feel I would love to gain a little weight. The only way I can is through weight training, but right now I'm not really into that. I'm more doing walking and stuff because I'm working my regular job during the day in the coaching business and YouTubing and stuff. So it's on hold a little bit, and I just feel like I feel good eating this way. So I just the only time I fasted, and I kind of laugh at this, is I was at the hair salon and it took 9 hours. Don't ask what I had done. So it took 9 hours. And by the time it was done, so I was 10 hours without eating in the day. I was like, I want a cow. I want to eat the whole cow. I was so hungry. And I thought, okay, this proves to me my fast could be 6, 7, 8 hours, but beyond that, nope, no.
You know, one thing I wrote down when you were talking about the previous way you were eating when I think it was around the time you saw the nutritionist, you were eating like, the turkey breast and the pretty
Turkey
boring
breast.
stuff. I was just thinking, when you're eating that way, and I've done that in the past, when you're eating that way, you're always in this state of you're looking forward to when you're eating, and you're always thinking about the next time you're going to eat, but you're always thinking, oh, I'm not going to enjoy it, or it's not that great. I'm only going to enjoy it because I'm starving, that kind of thing. And I feel like when you're in that state, you're eating wrong if you're feeling that way about your food and you're thinking about food all the time. Because when you're eating carnivore, it's just like you feel calm and you're not thinking about when am I going to eat next? When is it going to be? Come on. Like you say, you finish
Doesn't
eating
matter.
around 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And, if you're if you're eating the turkey and the chicken breast and the steamed veggies and all that and the rice, there's no way you could finish eating at 3 o'clock
No.
and,
Mm.
9 o'clock at night, you'd be raiding the fridge.
And I was, or I was drinking the wine
Mm.
on the excuse of, oh, it helps me sleep. Well, I was starving, so yeah, it helped me sleep, but it also gave me calories and also contributed to the diabetes. But you're exactly right. And then, like, and you got it. I used to throw out the meals I'd prep for the week. And now we kind of laugh because I don't cook carnivore recipes, or I've never liked to really cook. So for me, it's so quick. I cooked up 2 hamburgers, didn't even go outside on the grill. I just throw them in the frying pan. I threw in some butter because they were 80/20, some, or 85. My husband's, whatever's on sale. I don't know, just add more butter to it. Couple slices of bacon, done. I mean, it's always one pan and it's always the same thing, but I don't get sick of it. I just don't. I wonder when I will, but I don't. And then mornings, eggs and bacon. Um, I do buy very often cheap meat. I think Dr. Berry coined the term, like the cheapest meat at Walmart is better than what I used to eat. It's better than the dry chicken and all the fake food I used to eat. So, as for affordability, yeah, sometimes there's a nice steak or grass fed, or I live in Missouri, we're looking to buy a quarter of a cow. But in between, it's Walmart. It's Walmart. It's generic butter, uh, cheap eggs, not the best quality, but you know what? They work and I feel good, and I feel very good. And because the meats I often eat are a little cheaper, I tend to cook a medium instead of, now if I get a good grass fed, or when we buy the cow and my neighbors have the cow, I know how they eat. I would love to eat more of a medium rare is my favorite.
Nice. Um,
Yeah.
so, Juliet, based on your experience, if someone came to you and said, "Okay, I see how well you're doing. I want to give carnivore a try for 90 days. I'm willing to do it for that period of time. Tell me what's the best way to get started? What advice or tips would you give them?"
And I've had friends that do that, have done that, and maybe it's the coaching part. I really like to understand where they are now and how motivated. And quite frankly, most people, women that I know, they have been on constant restriction. Like, it just seemed to be the norm in my early 50s. All my girlfriends would just talk about their diet. We go out to drink and can't have that. I'm on this diet. That it became normal. Like, you just if somebody's always on a diet, and for those people, and they seem very interested, I would I would recommend more the keto route. Like just start with keto because you know your friend's the best, and not to be rude, but you just know what they're capable of, and they may flip next week. So I have recommended, but no processed food, no wheat, no dairy. Start with some vegetables. Your favorite. I don't even tell them low glycemic because that would scare them away, but or low oxalate as well. You know, do that. Start there, and then work your way down. I went cold turkey, but I was so motivated. So it really depends on the motivation. But if you're a person that is like I was, like up to here with diets, feeling like the scale controls you, the diet controls you, you're eating 14, 1,200 calories, 1,800 calories and gaining weight, you're metabolically damaged. And you know that if you're diabetes and thyroid issues and all the issues, I just went head first. And the key that, and I alluded to it earlier, is you have to throw in that fat to get your body to start burning that fat. And it's really, I get it. It's really hard to believe somebody you're seeing it in YouTube and don't know, but it truly works if you do it right. And at first, everybody, some people just pull the levers after 5, 6, 90 days, 6 months and go, oh, I want to go higher protein, lower. You'll see that, and that's fine. But to start out, if you just eat the fat, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're satiated. You don't need to buy fancy steaks. You don't need to buy fancy eggs or those products. If you like beef, butter, bacon, eggs, that's what I eat. And it actually cured me of so much. And you know, it's kind of a weird thing, but one of the things I love at my age is I always bought the most expensive face creams and facials. I mean, the top of the line, and my skin was always dry because I'm like, oh, I'm aging. That's normal. But I don't use anything now, like nothing, just tallow and water, and I'm done. And I notice on videos, even this one, like my skin is very moisturized. It just, the inside start healing and then the outside start healing. And, people have said, wow, you look like you slept well or whatever. And I get that a lot more here and there these months than I ever have, even at a younger age. So it's just healing. And anytime, and I'm not selling anything. If someone's starting, they want to reach out to me, I keep my email right on my website, my business email. I don't try to push or sell. That's not what I'm there for. But if people have questions, I love to help people, just to give them ideas. I'm not a doctor. I don't get into that, but I love to share my story. That's what I can do to help people.
Yeah. So, how can people find you online? Like, how can they find your channel and your website?
Well, my YouTube channel is Coach Juliet Edens, or it could be just Juliet Edens, because YouTube is changing it from the handle name. So sometimes I appear as Juliet Edens Wellness. JulietEdensWellness.com is my website. Juliet Edens Wellness at gmail.com is my personal email, where you can feel free to reach out to me for basic questions. I won't treat you as I would a client, but if you have some basic questions, or right on my YouTube site, I do put out videos for keto content as well as carnivore. And that's mainly because of the clientele I work with. Not every person is ready for carnivore, but they do experience a lot of healing on keto. Some go to carnivore, some start out in carnivore, maybe add some veggies back in, but I embrace the whole low carb, ketovore, carnivore type way of eating because I've just seen the miracles, and it's the proper way to eat for health, for sure.
No worries. Well, I'll link to your YouTube website and email in the show notes.
Yeah.
Juliet, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And again, it's an honor. Thank you.